Welcome back. It's been another wild and crazy week in the Parliament. Okay, no, if we're being completely honest, it's like how comedian Bill Maher described going to church or war. Hours of boredom with a few pockets of absolute terror.
I'm on 009 other transfers.
But we haven't reached yours yet.
Okay, sure.
There's a joke in there about coming prematurely, but we're not going to make that. See, the Standing Finance Committee works by going through the fiscal allocations line by line. So you say, well, this is how much we anticipated to spend this year, this is how much we actually spent, and then the opposition gets to ask, well, how come you're spending $1 million this year, and you're not going to spend $2 million this year? And somehow, hilarity ensues.
The figure in 2020 again was lower than revised is lower than the original, and the 2021 is substantially lower. Would you like it to be more?
I actually said all of those things you repeated.
Would you like it to be more?
No, I would not like it to be more. I would like for you to explain
Why
what the $70,000 in 2020 was spent on, given that only $932 was spent in 2019. That was my question.
Yeah, that's right. Anita Haynes and Coleman would fought like siblings in the back seat every time they came together, and the speaker had to be like, hey, I will turn this parliament around. Because that exchange went on for like just about 5 minutes.
Operational expenditure. If the members had paid attention and looked in this book, which we just finished, they would have seen a lot of the operational expenditure of this agency is now covered under recurrent expenditure.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to thank the member for Tobago West for giving the answer to the Minister of Finance, because he went all around before and never got here.
Okay, members,
Fashion out of place.
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
asking
Mr. Chair.
foolish questions.
members, listen.
Mr. Chair.
Member,
Now, these politicians are there to hold the government to account. But maybe if you're good, you might get a little something out of it for yourself.
I just want to ask my friend from my arrow, nothing pejorative in this intended, but just to protect himself, he ought to declare an interest insofar as he's a technology provider himself. Just protecting him, I know that there's nothing untoward. He runs a very respectable business that is well known in this country in the IT field.
In years before, fire officers were allowed a $5,000 allocation for dental services every year at registered dental providers. Does this allocation fall under line item 04, and also has this allocation been stopped?
Madam Chair, just on a point of clarity, I believe my friend, you are a dentist?
Yeah.
Are you affected by this personally?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you should have said so.
Yeah, listen, that's just making sure that your primary job is secure, because being an opposition MP really doesn't pay well. And it's not lost on me that the two government MPs who raised those conflicts of interest were Faris Al-Rawi and Stuart Young, whom the opposition has been raking over the coals because of how many times they've been recused, or how many times they had to recuse themselves in cabinet because of, conflicts of interest. So Faris and Stuart probably now know how every single opposition member has made every cent down to the time they stole change from the backseat as a child. It's petty, and I love it. So imagine this sort of back and forth going on for 10 hours a day for 4 days. Naturally, the MPs lost their cool once or twice, or just about every 5 minutes.
So there's no comparison. So we took these from out of the air, apple and apple, oranges and oranges.
No.
Where do we pick?
And I can't compare it with sport and youth affairs, because the youth affairs part is with Ministry of Youth and National Services. You guys need to caucus.
this is not a laughing matter. This is a serious matter. We had cuts, and we have to deal with it. This year, we have to make a sacrifice.
No, I assure you that I do not think of flooding in any way as a laughing matter, having to deal with it on several occasions already.
Member of Parliament for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West, just leaned across and suggested that racist comments are being made from members on this side.
He is calling people racist.
I said, if indeed you've said such a thing, I've asked you to withdraw it.
Withdraw seeing what they are?
Madam Speaker,
With
Madam
one-
Chair, Madam Chair.
Member, I would suggest that maybe you take a little walk, reboot yourself, and come back.
The whole point of this committee is to approve the estimates of expenditure. What the member is talking about comes afterwards. There's no question of telling us how to move things around.
Thank you, Minister.
You're welcome.
You know, out of everything there, Shamfa's "You're welcome" was the most brutal cut of all because you know she didn't mean it. Can we hear it again?
Thank you, Minister.
You're welcome.
Yeah. He is most certainly not welcome. That's like when you call Flo and you've been on the phone for an hour and you finally get what you want and you're like, thank you. Look, the UNC MPs are new, so they're not always going to understand the finer points of the committee right away. The ministers at the same time are going into the committee with this sort of arrogance that they're dealing with people dumber than them. And they have been speaking to the members of the opposition that way. And guess what? You're not winning anybody over with that attitude. And words of wisdom came from the most unusual of places.
I think it's not wise and it's bad. It's terrible that the minister is referring to people as new and not understanding process and not knowing. Everybody is assumed to be new when we start our 12th parliament.
I am not new, neither are you.
And
Minister of
talking
Finance.
I wish it
Member for Urupuch, Minister of Finance. I want to thank the member for Urupuch for his intervention. Minister of Finance, I am sure, like all of us, we welcome youth, which shows the continuation of life.
And as you heard the speaker, well, in this case, she's considered the committee, the chair of the committee. She spoke about tolerance, and she constantly had to invoke it when dealing with Minister Imbert.
Would the minister be able to provide the details of the new recruit?
Sure, why don't I ask that one time instead of the long preamble?
Of Finance. Minister of Finance. And I'm addressing you, so please, Minister of Finance. Okay, I think the governing rule, but I think I'll give everybody a little time. Maybe we all had a very good breakfast, too much sugar.
God, this poor woman, she's running a daycare.
So I'll say when we resume, so we'll be a little more productive. Member for Urupuchis, you will tell me when we're ready to resume. We all ready? Right, and I expect we all now have invoked tolerance.
But speaking of daycare, where was the opposition leader in all of this? She just really did have her kids running around all over the place. But for all of the talk of tolerance and being calm, there's always that one person who gets under your skin. And by now, you should know about the special relationship that the Speaker has with St. Augustine MP Khadija Amin.
In all the regional corporations,
No, we are under
W.
Regional Corporation.
We are on W. Penal,
And remember, while you don't mean it, I really don't like you speaking to me like this.
Oh, I'm
Just as
sorry.
you wouldn't like me speaking to you
Sorry,
like this.
sorry. I'm using the ruler to get the line here. My apologies.
I feel like we could do a little better. Let's give it a little oomph.
In all the regional corporations,
No,
we are in
under
we are on W.
Regional.
Yes, there it is. God, the two of them, they're like that woman in the office who just cannot get along with the female supervisor. Just always. Anyway, at least now that's all over. The budget is passed. The opposition abstained from voting. And before you go, oh God, the UNC again. No. Listen, that's par for the course in Parliament. The PNM only voted for one budget, especially while they were in opposition. And that was in 2010, and the Prime Minister never lets us forget it. And you may think that you're not getting a lot out of all of this, supposedly unnecessary back and forth, but believe it or not, this is all in the interest of transparency. It's actually better to have all of this than nothing at all. After all, it's your money, and you deserve to know how it's spent. We'll be back.